You're listening to the Tumbling Saber Podcast, a member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Check us out on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com, on iTunes, Facebook, and Twitter, and take your first step into a larger world. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 74 of the Tumbling Saber Podcast. My name's Kyle.
I'm Corey.
And I'm James.
Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks to everybody for tuning in, listening to us this week. Can I say tuning in on a podcast?
Nope.
Well, what else would you say?
I don't know. I feel like there should be another word. Thanks for downloading us.
Thanks for uploading us.
Thanks for clicking on our link. I don't know. They all sound kind of stupid, don't they?
Tuning in.
Tuning in it is until otherwise notified. Yeah, welcome back to our silly little kangaroo court, where the tally now sits at a robust $10. Thank you, Corey, for the $8 contribution for that.
Thanks, man.
I have a suggestion as well, boys. I think we should have our outing once we reach whatever goal or ceiling we set to spend that kitty. I think we should have it at La Belle et la Boeuf. Oh my, what a meal I had last night, guys.
Do tell.
I will tell. So I perused the menu. They have like everything on the menu is comfort food. And basically they only have three sections. They have burgers, of which there are 20, poutines, of which there are 15, and mac and cheese. I think there's a dozen of those. And there is a salad and like starter section as well. But yeah, all like really, really good comfort food. And like they had a lobster poutine, lobster mac and cheese, a foie gras poutine, Wow.
All right.
They had everything. One of their burgers was doused in was wrapped in bacon and smothered in peanut butter.
Jesus.
I've heard that you've not lived until you've had peanut butter on a hamburger.
With bacon.
Well, then I still haven't lived, because I went for the giant double stacked brie bacon sautéed mushroom burger with like this homemade crazy spicy sauce, and I upgraded my fries to the house poutine, which was outstanding. They do it with a skinny fry, which I'm not traditional, but was really good. Nice.
That just made my stomach growl.
Yeah, that does sound good. And then the good news is they're opening one right near us. Not.
I know, that's exactly. So I think by the time that thing's open, and Corey does another 2 or 3 shows, we should be good to go.
Man, screw that. let's just ante up tonight and go all in, and let's get the kitty up enough to all go see Guardians of the Galaxy.
I do want to see that movie, but I think we just do that because we want to do that.
Maybe we should wait till the flooding subsides.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have access to roads and a bridge. That would be a good start.
If there's any, and there's no upside to this because it's really actually a really terrible situation of hundreds of families displaced in Rigo, but people have heard of Rigo. Which is usually, I have to explain where I'm from, but now all of a sudden people are like, hey, aren't you from Rigo? People are reaching out to me on social media who I haven't heard from a really long time. Hey, I saw your town on the news.
Yeah, I've got a buddy who lives in that town, and he's on the water, and his entire property is gone. But I guess he's still at home. He's one of those crazy people that decided to stick it out. He posted a picture, which
is it Eric? Eric might stick it out.
No. This is John. He's further out, and he posted a picture from his backyard, which overlooks the lake. And it was somebody's patio set, so the table and chairs just floating downriver.
Oh, it's terrible, man.
It's bad, man.
I can't even imagine. I say I would, I think I know what I would do if my house was being flooded and that I would leave, but I don't know. With all your stuff there, I can't pretend to be in these people's places, and I don't want to be. So. It's awful what's going on. Hopefully the rain and water levels stop going up and these people can get back to normal soon.
Yeah, it's bad, man.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, it in our area here, so from where James lives to where I am, to even all of Montreal, really, we are in a state of emergency. The army's been called in. We are being flooded. The rain has been almost constant for seemingly forever. And the river, the lakes around us are just historically high. And it's a bad situation. It really is bad. But nevertheless, we're here, man. We're going to talk some Star Wars. And, while we sit back and relax and chat about the galaxy far, far away, it's comforting to me to know that my Prime Minister, and yours too, is 10 minutes from where I sit, filling sandbags at this current moment. So we can be grateful for that.
He's a good man.
Yeah, good move. And I already heard people, the naysayers. Oh, it's a photo op. Well, you know what? He photo opped his way to fill in dozens of bags. So even if it is a photo op, who cares?
Yeah. So all those people would are the people that probably voted against him.
That's exactly it.
So yeah, I mean, so what? Exactly. It's a photo op, but he's helping out probably more than those people are. And
well,
frankly,
they did complain
more than I
on
have.
Facebook, so.
Yes, of course. It's not a legit complaint until you log in on social media. Well, speaking of our government, did you see all of the list of agencies and governmental departments that got in on the May the 4th action? It was astounding.
Yeah. This was a big year for it. I guess Star Wars is cool again. I mean, we knew it, but we're starting to see it in the general masses as well. It's not just in the hardcore fan podcast world.
I think we got to attribute some of that to Justin Trudeau. Like, he's a big fan. Like, he dressed the family up, not this year, but last year or the year prior, anyhow, for Halloween.
He had his Star Wars socks on this year.
Yeah, Star Wars socks this year. But
well, that picture drove Dave Donovan nuts because he was wearing the R2 and 3PO socks, which were in full view for everybody to see, in a meeting with the Irish Prime Minister. So awesome. Dave's, oh my God, how do you guys have such a cool guy and we have him? Well, the whole world is jealous of us.
Well,
we have him.
Surprisingly, again, there's still a lot of hate for him too out here as well. It's pretty bad. We got our right wing as well.
Well, nobody is unanimous, and nor should they be. Anyway, so a partial list of agencies and departments from like official government agencies that tweeted on May the 4th. So Infrastructure Canada, Justice Canada, the Canadian Army, Natural Resources, the Library Archives, Public Health, Environment Canada, Transport Canada, Parks Canada, Stats Canada, the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, the Canadian Space Agency, Border Services, Department of Fisheries and Science, and there are more. I listed off 14 there.
But I mean, you got to expect the Border of Fisheries and Science. They're such a wild bunch. I mean, everybody knows they're going to do something crazy every year.
Yeah, they're infamous for their keggers.
Boys, you're going to have to go on about this for 1 minute without me. I'll be right back. Apparently, I left the kettle on upstairs, so before I burn my house down.
Well, just wait a little longer and the floodwaters will come and put it out.
Yeah, that's a risk I'm not willing to take, so back in two.
Oh, man. Well, that is pretty cool, though. I mean, ultimately, it's that our government can get in on the act like that and just
that's incredible.
Have a little bit of fun.
I don't know how these all fell through the past my radar here. Like I caught like 3 of them maybe. I definitely didn't catch like half of what you had said. I saw the one from the Navy, or not the Navy, the Army, I believe it was.
The Canadian Army, they did a video.
Yeah.
An actual video, which takes some resources. Although we know that I assume those resources come from our tax dollars.
It was pretty.
I'm not sure that's how I want our military spending money, but I digress.
It was still a pretty bad video, but
what do you want?
Yeah.
But, my personal favorite was I think the Library Archives. It was this really vintage-looking picture of people gathered at a fishing dock, and there's a bunch of lobster traps stacked, and there's just one person saying, "It's a trap!"
That's awesome.
It was really funny.
Yeah, I think the only other one I saw was the Department of Transportation where they had the recall on the AT-ATs.
Yeah, that was the one that I had tweeted out.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I don't know if that's why you saw it, but I tweeted that one out. But I figured that would probably be the only one. But no, they just kept coming. And more than I could keep up with. So I posted a compilation to the Tumbling Saber Facebook page if you want to catch the link and see what else
Oh, for sure.
our cool government did for once.
Yeah, well, for once. Come on.
Well, let's face it. For a long time, our government was not that cool.
No, that's true.
No, Harper sucks. Hey, guys, I'm back.
Hey, James.
Yeah, I don't know that Harper would be caught dead wearing C-3PO and R2-D2 socks.
Almost made a tasteless joke there, but I'm glad he's out of power.
Yeah, nobody should be in power for 11 years, right? Okay. How about some Star Wars news?
Let's do it.
All right, really quickly, we'll touch on the Dr. Aphra winning the Fan Choice Award. We'll blaze through this really quickly. So, a bunch of prominent Star Wars fan sites were holding a poll to see who Hasbro would be building as a Black Series 3 3/4 inch figure. And lo and behold, the brand new, well, she's not brand new, but relatively speaking, new character Dr. Aphra narrowly beat out Ahsoka in Rebel gear. A figure which already exists in the 6-inch format, which is pretty cool. I mean, this to me means that character is catching on pretty damn fast. Corey, do you have any thoughts on Aphra?
I haven't. I've read her in Invader, but I haven't caught the standalone yet. I'm really looking forward to reading it, to be honest, because I mean, fandom is really behind this character. Obviously, she won this poll. I'm glad to have another strong female character in the franchise, and I'm just glad it didn't go to some Legends character, to be honest. Like I heard people were like kind of rallying around Ben Skywalker, and to be honest, like I don't want to dump on them, the people that love that stuff either. Like what I think Lucasfilm or Disney, I don't know who would be in this instance, but they should divide like Legend stuff and canonical stuff toy wise. Anyway, if they want to run these polls and say, okay, we're gonna do a Legends character, choose from this list of Legends characters or whatever. But I'd say we got to keep them separated. But other than that, I'm stoked that she won. I didn't vote for her, frankly. Like I really wanted to see Fives get a toy. I was, come on, Ahsoka 2 was really high on my list, but again, we got the 6-inch, which is quite nice, and she's been getting a lot of love lately with the toys. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, I'm happy that she would have probably been my second choice.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what the thing I took out of this, aside from Aphra catching on like wildfire, is that Jaina Solo also won this last year, although I think in the 6-inch format. So here we are with 2 fan votes, or the last 2 fan votes. I don't know how many there have been, but both polls have been won by a female character, which, I mean, Corey, you alluded to it. It's pretty damn cool. I mean, we don't need, or, you know what, it's more like a shot across the bow of everybody, including Hasbro, who can't seemingly wrap their heads around the fact that girls and female characters having as much love and influence on fandom as boys do. So hopefully that's another pass of the smelling salts, because seems like over and over fans keep repeating this is what we want, and I'm not sure the message keeps getting through clearly, but this is another stab at that. Hopefully this time the message sinks in.
Well, to be fair, Lucasfilm seems to be getting the message pretty loudly and pretty clearly. Last few movies have had some pretty strong.
Oh yeah,
characters.
Lucasfilm. No, I'm referring to Hasbro.
Yeah,
because we had with the Force Awakens, the whole "Where's Rey" controversy with badly understocked toys, and they said no, that was just because they didn't want to spoil the surprise, which was total BS. Hera toys have been badly understocked. I've seen one in my life. Ahsoka for the longest time was hard to find. Now not so much. But anyway, I don't want to dwell too much on this. Good for Dr. Aphra. really great character and one gaining in popularity. So good for all those who got what they wanted. And we'll skip ahead to news that actually dropped tonight. We record this on Sunday night, and we get a note from Making Star Wars about Kylo Ren's personal starfighter from The Last Jedi. So an image leaked of one of those miniature Hot Wheel toys, which I've got a bunch of, and we get a side view of Kylo's personal TIE fighter, and it looks like a mashup to me anyway, between a TIE Interceptor and Vader's TIE fighter. So the wings are very, very TIE Interceptor-ish, and the cockpit area very much like Darth Vader's. So we'll go quickly around the table here. James, cool looking ship, or too close to a rehash?
I don't know. Maybe I'm a sucker for like the old content, but I like this rehashing stuff. I never seem to mind as much. I know there's some people are like, come up with some original ideas, and how come they can't, how come it has to look the same? But I love it. I think it looks super cool.
Yeah, I think this ship looks really badass. Corey, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. I'm surprised we all are, but I'd like to get another view of it. I think we're getting the hindquarter view of it, so I'd like to see what the cockpit actually looks like. I don't know if this is the only picture you guys are seeing. I'm only seeing this one angle of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's on like the translucent stand sort of heading away.
Yeah. So I don't know what the cockpit looks like. It almost looks like it's a flat body, almost like the body of the last ship that he was riding with Interceptor wings. We know the Interceptor was a really fast and agile ship, and this one kind of looks a little more bulkier and beefier. So maybe it's got better shielding. Yeah, I'm down with it. I like the color scheme.
I like how it looks so Vader-esque too. And it will in action even more. Especially on head-on shots. You'll lose the length, right? And it'll look.
Well, it almost looks like the colors are just inverted, right? Where the black is on this one, the gray would be on the old ones, right?
Yeah, they basically flip the color map on these things. I'm
liking it. I'm a fan.
So another descriptor for this was that the thrusters are blue, which would be very reminiscent of the Falcon. And so now I'm thinking to myself that if Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, if he knew the Falcon specs growing up, does it stand to reason that he'd want a scaled down version of those powerful engines on his own starfighter? You think he's taking a page out of Dad's playbook here?
Possibly. I'm sure, Han Solo definitely being one of the premier pilots in the galaxy would probably have taught passed some of that knowledge on to him.
Well, and if they're which they usually do, if they're trying to write realistic scripts, little boys want to be like Dad. So at some point, he probably thought that ship was really cool, even if he learned to resent Han seemingly a lot.
I'll say.
But yeah, I think that it would just stand to reason that at some point he would think that ship was super rad and know a lot about it. So it's not a far jump to get to putting some of those specs into his own.
Yeah, my thought exactly. And I asked the guys over at TSW way back. I think I asked them anyway. Do we think that we'd see Rey pilot the Falcon in an action sequence? Maybe the question we should have been asking ourselves the whole time was, are we going to see Kylo Ren piloting a ship in an action sequence? Or I guess more broadly, what about Kylo's piloting skills? I've never heard anybody talk about this. Maybe we're breaking ground here. But he is Han's son and Vader's grandson, two really great pilots. So he's getting it from both sides of the family. So he's got to have some pretty good pilot DNA in him. Would you agree?
I 100% agree. I have that exact thing written down here. He's part Solo, part Skywalker. Not only was his grandfather a great pilot, or the greatest pilot possibly of all time, but Luke was not too shabby either. And yeah, his dad's one of the most renowned pilots out there as well. So he should know his way around a ship. And I think they're gonna at one point they're gonna have to somewhat establish that, I would think. He's got this super hot cool ship now. I guess we got to kind of at one point see what he can do with it, I would think. Because this one, the last ship that he was in kind of seemed a little more like a transport. This seems a little more fighter-based.
Oh yeah, this is totally fighter.
So
this ship has one purpose.
It looks highly maneuverable, and yeah, I mean, this thing looks like we're going to see it in action.
I think I remember you guys. Do you guys remember talking about this? I think we heard rumors that he possibly crash lands on Act 2 at one point. I don't know if you guys remember that.
There was a rumor from way back that, again, from making Star Wars, that there is a crashed ship, and it seemed perhaps the Knights of Ren are surrounding that ship, sort of kneeling, waiting for the person to get out. So yeah,
I kind of speculated that
maybe it seems like this ship's shelf life might be quite limited. Maybe it gets shot down right off the hop. Maybe Kylo's not quite the pilot. Another inferiority thing going on.
If anybody, like, I think I had speculated on this back in the day that it's kind of Chewie and R2's role at that time, where like Luke and Rey are kind of either getting ready or whatever's going to happen. Like they're probably maybe even separated at this point. Then Chewie and R2 just pop out of nowhere and just get off one good shot on him, you know?
Yeah, perhaps. Anyway, this thing looks super cool. I can't wait to see this thing in action, even if it's just for a little bit. I think this is destined to become a fan favorite ship, and people are mark my words. This will be in Battlefront 2 as a feature that comes out down the road, and it's going to be just a bitchin' ride to play. It's going to be so much fun. Anything else on this?
Like I said, just want to see the front of it.
And the top of it, and the under of it, and the other side, and the front, and the back. Yeah, all that stuff. I really can't wait to see this thing in action. Okay. So we'll jump ahead. We're going to blaze through the news because we got a lot of interactions from our listeners this week, and I can't wait to get to that. So, Entertainment Weekly, Anthony Bresnick, he's up to his old tricks again for May the 4th. And he had a good piece, a good quick piece out on EW.com about a droid swap from The Last Jedi, and some neat tidbits about Luke. So Rian Johnson, before they really sat down to film The Force Awakens, he had asked J.J. Abrams if he would mind switching the last scene of the movie so that R2 accompanies Rey and Chewie to Act 2 instead of BB-8. And this seems like such a natural thing. Like, why on earth would BB-8 have gone with them in the first place? Doesn't that just seem so weird?
Yeah.
Like, that's Poe's droid.
Exactly. Like, they were reunited. Granted, Rey and BB-8 had a connection, but no. That it would have been weird to me. They'd been kind of like... it would have seemed forced a bit to me. Like, I mean, come on. R2 just woke up because he's like, oh, my master. Like, are you just going to leave him behind?
It doesn't... it never made sense. Like, BB-8 serves no purpose. It's not Rey's droid. It's certainly not Chewie's droid. Luke doesn't know him. Very unlikely to know him. Why not put R2 back in the mix? James, is this... Are you on the same chord as us?
I am. I wish I could disagree because it makes for better tuning in. But yeah, no.
There's that word again.
It just makes sense to send R2 with this group on that mission. Like Corey said, like, yeah, he just woke up from his like super slumber to find out where his master is finally, to watch the ship fly away. Like, I don't know.
Nah, it made no sense. R2 had to be there with Luke, and he needs to be part of The Last Jedi with Luke and mirror Empire in that way. And I don't want this movie to mirror Empire too much in ways that it doesn't need to. But having Luke and R2 together in the middle part of a trilogy makes all the sense in the world to me.
You know what?
Go ahead.
This can kind of change our perspective on looking at the trailer from The Force Awakens, where Luke reaches out and puts his hand on R2, right?
In which way?
In the sense that now knowing this information, that scene is obviously like 100%, almost 100% confirmed now that would be a flashback and not a flash forward. Because some people were starting to speculate that could be a flash forward, right?
Right. Yeah, you're right. Anyway, so I think it's unanimous. Everybody agrees that R2 should have been the right droid to go. I don't know what Abrams was thinking. I don't know if that's just to get his invention, his BB-8 toy, out there on screen as much as possible. But yeah, somebody, Ryan Johnson specifically, pulled the emergency brake at the last second and said, no, we got to flip these two.
No. JJ, come on.
Yeah, no, that's a bad call, JJ.
It's kind of it's odd. I guess maybe he had his reasoning, and like you said, maybe that's one of them. But yeah, I just see it more as like just stuffing that character and just like, no, this is the droid of the new trilogy.
Not yet, baby. Okay, so Anthony Bresinkin also wrote a little bit about Luke, and without getting into any quotes or anything, I just want to get into the crux of the conversation. So, why did Luke run away after losing his academy? We know that he felt responsible for the death and loss of his academy, but what does he think he's going to find on Act 2 at the First Jedi Temple? I don't quite get it. James, any thoughts on this?
I wish I had better thoughts than to say I don't really know, but I racked my brain after reading that thinking like, yeah, why? What is it about? Like, I understand wanting to escape and get away from what happened. Like, that I get. Like, oh my God, this terrible thing just happened. I want out of here and just to be by myself. Like, I get the withdrawal, the hermiting, but like, what's he looking for? Like, okay, all this went down. I need to find the answer to what? Like, what attacked us? Is that what it is? Like, that wasn't a Sith. Like, what just hit us? Like, I need to find out more. Maybe I just answered my own question just in talking it out with you guys.
Maybe. Does he need to go to the First Jedi Temple to get that answer?
I don't know. I can't think of what he would need to go and find out after his temple gets destroyed.
Well, let's ask Corey. He seems to have an answer for everything, one way or the other.
Oh yeah, here we go. All right. So at that point, it kind of seems like I'll say it like this. Maybe the Force is coming. Things are coming to a head. We know Kylo is going to learn the truth about his grandfather around this time period. So let's just say somehow Snoke's involved in his life and worm-tonguing him, right? What if Snoke throws something in both their faces, he and Luke, and says, hey, look, I'm pretty ancient myself, and this is what your so-called Jedi said back in the day. This is legit. This is the real deal. You're going to have to rethink your game, Skywalker. Hey, Kylo, let's go. Me and you, we're out of here. Like, let's peace. Like, mic drop, And Kylo totally buys into it. And then Luke's kind of left reeling because he knows what Snoke told him. There's some kind of sense in what he told him. Like, he basically dropped a bomb on him. And
he searched his feelings and knows that it's true.
Exactly. So, yeah, with including like the Vader bomb, like Luke kind of feels responsible, and probably at that moment too, like under attack, he's obviously got to escape from that planet. So maybe we've speculated before, maybe he finds Lord Santeca, quite a knowledgeable man. He's got some pretty profound secrets, according to my encyclopedia of characters there. So he probably points Luke in the direction of Act 2, where Luke's kind of curious and wants to verify whatever Snoke kind of told them with the ancient Jedi. And so now he's just kind of waiting around for Rey. Either maybe he's bitter about it, bitter that, everything that he's done kind of almost seems for naught, but he's still sticking to the plan, even though he's begrudged. He might not like the reason he's waiting for Rey, but I could be like only, you've said this before, it's going to take two to maybe acquire this knowledge, so he's waiting, and possibly he's going to have a lot to teach her, but I also think that she is going to end up in turn teaching him a lot of what he's going to need to know, or what he's been in search of.
Yeah, Rey certainly seems to be key to the whole entire equation on both sides of the fence. I'm struggling to, like, what knowledge is at the Jedi Temple that Luke needs to know? Like, what didn't Yoda know? What didn't Obi-Wan know in all these years of being being one with the Force and being in the afterlife? you'd think that all would be revealed to them at that point, and they would relay that back to Luke. Maybe, I don't know. Is that not the case? Is there something unknown to everybody at the Jedi Temple that Luke has caught wind of? Like, Corey, what you said about Snoke telling, maybe dropping a bomb on Luke as well. I think a long time ago I suggested something along those lines, but I think that's cutting pretty close to the mark. That, yeah, I think Snoke probably does tell Luke something really earth-shattering that he knows to be true, and he's got to go figure out the truth for himself.
And even if it's not Snoke, maybe it's Kylo straight up telling him after like having burnt the temple and like ruined everything and just been like, "Hey man, this is the truth. Like, get your facts straight. Like, come, we'll meet again," kind of,
What if they're bringing up the whole, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil type thing that Anakin was spouting at the end of Revenge of the Sith, and Luke's going, You're not wrong. What's going on here?" And so, yeah, maybe he's got to go back to the origin and start at point A.
Well, that's it. We've said it before. Like the Jedi ended up losing their way. Like I think they're gonna have to take less of a dogmatic approach and less of a singular way of looking at things. They're gonna have to look at it from a more all-encompassing view, I would think. And that doesn't necessarily, again, mean embracing the dark side and whatever, but just, taking off the blinders a bit.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, aside from Snoke telling Luke something as well, or Kylo telling Luke something earth-shattering, I still don't know why he would need to go to the first Jedi Temple. That part is still a mystery to me. I don't know what would prompt him to do that.
I think the books that we see in the trailer could have a big part of it. They seem to, I don't know, like they gotta have this awesome knowledge in them, like from the first, not necessarily the first, but like some of the first Jedi ever, like, which is really intriguing,
Well, I mean, does Luke know they're there, or did Luke already have them and he put them there?
Oh no,
or...
you could tell that tree that they're stored in or whatever has to be the library of the Wills.
Do you think they've been sitting there for eons and eons, just untouched?
Yeah. I think that's not necessarily the only thing he's been looking for while being there. Again, I think Rey is a big component and key to that puzzle. But again, it could, like you've said this before too, it could take whatever he needs to do. He can't do it alone. It needs to be a master and an apprentice.
Yeah, frankly, I kind of hope they go down that road. I think that'd be really cool. I mean, we've been seeing it in Rebels.
Is there anything inherently like odd about the idea that if what Snoke tells him is like that the Jedi were fundamentally flawed, then why does he have to go to the Jedi Temple? Like, why would he seek truth at the original place of like? I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but like,
no, you are.
No, you are. Well, it's because it's that time span of 25,000 years where Snoke can be like. He could tell him something.
Maybe he was very specific about those Jedi were idiots. The ones that where you come from, like your knowledge of the Jedi is based on a foundation of lies or mistruths or
sand.
I hate sand. Your father hated sand.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But no, I think you're right, James. Maybe yeah. He could have been told that there's something wrong with what you've believed all along, and those guys were idiots. If you want the truth, you need to go back further. I don't know why Snoke would tell him that. It doesn't seem like Snoke is very interested in having Luke around at all.
No.
So I don't know why he would give him the clue that would help him get back on track.
Well, I don't think that's part of it. Like, I don't think he'd be intentionally giving him a clue, but yeah, like... I really do. Again, I hope to go down this road a bit too. I'm intrigued now.
Now?
Well,
Only now?
Well, you know what I
mean. You're more intrigued now than you were 20 minutes ago?
No. We've talked about this before, and just every time we touch back on it, it's interesting.
Yeah, no, we have sort of talked about it before, but yeah, we never really talked about it from the why angle. Like what? Yeah, he's there and he's doing something, but what? And not just the what, but the why. That's what I'm trying to get at today is the why. It's killing me.
I think the why is right, no? Like, he knows he has to wait for this other, I don't want to say chosen one, because, but...
Maybe? I don't know. You think he's going to sit there and he's got to go hang out in Act 2 waiting for the next one?
Well, we said it last week. I think was it Ad's question? Let's get there. Did he burn the ships? Does he have a ship? Can he leave? Does he want to leave?
So many questions to have answered.
Yep.
Anyway, so people listening, if you have thoughts about why Luke has to go to Act 2, what prompted him to go there after the loss of his temple, tweet us. Let us know. We need some more plausible theories here. And that is it for the news section this week. That was really short and sweet. I guess there was a couple other things we could have hit on, but we'll save those for another time because we've got a loaded slate of listener questions, and this is by far my most favorite thing to do as a podcaster. So we'll kick it off with Ad's edition, and we'll listen to what he has to say, and then we will come back and kick around a whole lot of random Star Wars questions.
Hello boys, hope the Tumbling Sabres are all well. My question this week is the same one that I'm sending to Mark and the boys over at Talk Star Wars, and it concerns the Last Jedi trailer, and specifically the shot on Crate. So we have the Resistance planes, the new pretty cool designed ones that are flying out to meet the AT-AT walkers and appear to be deliberately scraping the surface of the planet and bringing up into the air red dust or ash or red something. So my initial view was that it was being brought up deliberately so that it would help to confuse and disorientate the First Order attack. However, I have another theory as well, one which I'd love you guys to kick around for a bit. I've had a quick look and I can't seem to see any official theories that fit with this one. Do you think that the planet's surface is deliberately being scraped because the dust particles are a heavily combustible material? Something that perhaps an AT-AT wouldn't want to get covered with, especially if a wave of X-Wings were to come flying across armed to the teeth with explosives. Now I know, Carl, that you do like us to do proper research into this, so here's the science bit. Finer particles burn readily when their ignition point is reached and tend to ignite the coarser particles as well. In the case of aluminium, for example, an explosion can result if ignition occurs while the particles are suspended in air as a dust cloud, since the burning extends from one particle to another with extreme speed. So basically, do you think that this could be an effective way for the Resistance to counterattack the First Order and help nullify those big AT-AT walkers? Love to hear what you think. That's the first question. And the second one, a bit more laid back. It's a would you rather. So your choice is, would you rather have been signed by the Habs at age 19 and have had a extremely successful playing career with them with a guaranteed Stanley Cup, is it? Or, age 19, you are signed up to play Anakin Skywalker in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, with no idea of what that then entails. Which one do you go for? No doubt you will loophole the shit out of this question and change the parameters, but happy for you to do so, and I'll enjoy listening. Take care.
And once
Bye.
again, ladies and gentlemen, there goes the infamous ads. Thank you, sir. Another great question this week. So let's break it down, guys. The first part of the question. So, Corey, what is that red dust on crate? What are those weirdo speeder hybrid B-wings doing with that stuff? Yeah, any thoughts?
Yeah, I know, but I'm not at liberty to say.
Oh. Jeez. Okay, fine then. James, what do you think?
No clue.
Jeez, I have no clue either. So, moving on. I'm just kidding. Ads, we're not going to.
Well presented question, Ads. It was my idea to blow past it as a joke, but that is a well presented question. When I saw the email come in and he had that like symbolized dust explosion, like I was like, what are we looking at here?
Yeah,
but
what's going on here? Yeah, and then it was immediately clear.
Yeah, you totally. He was blinding us with science.
I know. We got a little science lesson from Ads. So everybody.
That's called foreshadowing. To all of my students who listen to this podcast, because I'm sure they do. That's foreshadowing. That's a literary device. You can mention that if you see it on your exam on the 23rd.
Extra credit for listening to the podcast. I like it.
I wish I could do that.
You probably could. Couldn't you do that someone on a pop quiz or something?
Yeah, I could. I could give bonus marks for that.
Ah, there you go. That's how we get listeners. That's how we get faithful, loyal listeners until they graduate.
Bribing and blackmail.
Love blackmail. Okay, so beyond the science lesson from Ads, once again, thank you. Really though, what do we think of this red dust on crate, whatever it is? James, have you had any thoughts?
I like Ads' idea that maybe they're stirring it up purposefully to blow stuff up, and then I started thinking even more like maybe it's not just flammable or inflammable. Wait, which one means they blow up both, right?
I thought I see it on tankers all the time. Flammable, inflammable. So is that good or bad?
I think they're synonyms. But doesn't Dr. Nick say flammable means flammable? What kind of crazy country is this?
Always believe Dr. Nick.
Yeah. The B is for bargain. But so I at first I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And then I started wondering too, like maybe it's like some sort of metallic, it's a mineral dust and it like sticks to something. So if they stir it up and the ats get like covered in it and it messes up their, radio frequencies. I don't know. I started sort of rolling with his idea that they're stirring it up on purpose because it's somehow beneficial to their fight.
Yeah. The first thing I went to upon seeing the trailer was that they would be picking it up and maybe blinding them. I think that was the easiest thing to go with, as Ad suggested. But then when he said combustible, like that's pretty cool. I didn't think of that. Yeah. So, spray it around and then light the fuse and watch it all go boom. That's pretty cool. Although, wouldn't that make for a quick fight? I don't know. And the only other thought that I have is that maybe it's corrosive or calcifying. That if you can get it to stick to the AT-ATs, these new walkers, that eventually it'll eat through the metal and damage them enough so that the resistance can take them out more easily.
Yeah, I could buy into that.
Yeah. Well, first, I got to chime in here. I think it's definitely well explained. Really awesome theory, and I think we can all agree here that there's got to be some kind of reason behind it, at least, in the least. But what you're explaining with the explosion, it kind of almost seems like it could be like the new tow cable maneuver, and we know these new gorilla-shaped AT-ATs, whatever, are most likely going to be pretty hard to take down. We also know that the planet Crate is formerly it was a mining planet. Like people were mining something here. So what exactly were they mining? Like this place kind of seems to be off the beaten path. Say lost in the sands of space or whatever, it's not really on the map of the First Order. So what are they mining? Some kind of mineral source that's an energy? I don't know. Like these vehicles, maybe with these skimmers that they were dragging along the ground. The first impression I got in thinking about it like this, or even seeing them almost, is the times have changed, but do you guys remember the old bumper cars that had the rod that stuck to the top of the roof with the electrified grid kind of, and That's what.
No, Corey, that's before my time.
No, well, whatever. I mean, it's not like that anymore. So some fans probably like thinking like, what is he talking about? It almost looked like a stick with a coat hanger off it that would touch like this electrified fence at the top of the roof, and that's
Yeah, or slot cars, like the track slot cars we used to race, where you'd pull a gun trigger, and if you went too fast around the corner, they'd whip into the wall. You guys had slot car racers, no?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Same thing, same idea. I know exactly what you mean. That's what the source of energy is by tapping into that. Yeah, something I wanted to bring up too is the color palette in Star Wars is pretty specific. Certain things represent certain things, and that red color, I instantly thought right away that what tie-in does that have to the bad guys?
Well, I just think it kind of like I'd said it not too long ago that I think it like mirrors the fight on Hoth, right? Just instead of being sheer like whites and blues, it's like this like white, orange, and red kind of, very similar but different.
Hey, what about the idea that this stuff is just decorative?
Meh.
I'm gonna go with that's a low option on the possibility list.
No, those skimmers that they have at the bottom of them, there's definitely got to be some kind of reasoning behind them. Now, my original assumption kind of with this ship is that they're kind of stuck at that altitude. Those skimmers, they go no higher, no lower. That, looking at the specs of the ship now, it looks like it has a gyroscopic cockpit, right? It would be totally pointless to have a gyroscopic cockpit if you have that skimmer that constantly has to be touching the ground at all times. So it's changed my perspective on how that ship flies. I think, and even in watching the trailer now, I think you see some of the skimmers are retracting, so it kind of lends itself a bit to Ad's thing with the, busting up the dust or bringing up the dust to maybe make an explosion. Or I went straight away to, again, confusing scanners, getting something in the air, some kind of material that's able to hide their numbers, cloak their escape, whatever it is.
Yeah, those are the best options I would imagine. So a report that MSW had a way back is that the rebellion, 30 years plus prior to The Last Jedi, they were using that planet as a mining there and taking out whatever gems they could from the caves, and that was what was financing the rebellion. So we're going to see, I guess, what those gems are, and maybe this dust has a part of that.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that too. Maybe they're even mining the dust in a way, Maybe the dust itself is that mineral that they're mining.
Yeah, lower concentration of it. Yeah, who knows? It's too red to be like iron, right? I mean, that's where my corrosive idea came from. Like if it was iron, like rusted iron oxide or something, if you could get it to stick to the AT-ATs, then maybe that's what they're doing with it. But it seems too red for that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Aesthetically, though, it works really well, and I hope there's some kind of reasoning behind it instead of just looking cool. But
yeah, it's one of the most visually, it's one of the coolest shots of that trailer. What if all that just gets cut out of the movie anyway? Man, what a piss off!
No way. I'm gonna go out on a very, very small limb and say that shot is definitely in the movie.
Yeah, I would agree. Or some angle of that. If it's not specifically that, yeah, we'll see.
That
something
idea of
very
them
much
stirring
like
up that red dust is definitely going to be seen.
I wonder if this is something that's been in Rian Johnson's mind for a long time. Like, at what point does the idea of directing a Star Wars movie come into his thought process? Like, if he was a hockey player, he'd say, "No, I never thought about it until they contacted me," which of course would be BS. At some point in his professional career or his education, he was dreaming about doing this. So I wonder if this has been something that's been rattling around in his head. Like, I would love, if I was doing a walker attack, this is what I would do. And if this is something he's been hanging on to for years and years and years, and just is lucky enough to be able to bring that out.
Yeah, I hope he's totally envisioned like a different play and worked with John Williams in composing like a different kind of Battle in the Snow track kind of deal.
No, I'm sure of that.
I just got to say, you guys are doing an outstanding job of leading up to potential segues for future questions, talking about hockey and scoring. Well done, real pro. What do we? I don't know. We're only 75 episodes in before you guys start thinking about professional cues. Well done, guys.
Hey, man, it just practice makes perfect.
Practice makes progress, is what we say in this house, Kyle. Perfect's a lot of pressure.
That's true. I just got to say this. I mean, again, I've been listening to the Commonwealth pods across the board, and man, like, dude, everybody is on fire, man. Like, if anyone hasn't listened to Sith Disturbers, our last episode, I have to say that, man, we had a good time recording it, and even I listened to it after, and I laughed, man. I literally laughed out loud in my car. I couldn't stop listening to it when I put it in. It's like it was.
You hear that, guys?
Yeah, it was all new. It was like, yeah. Anyway, it was pretty fast paced.
Way to pat us all on the back, Corey. Thanks a lot.
I heard the patting. I heard the patting noise, but
I was proud of it. What do you want me to say?
It was fun, Corey. That was a fun episode. I agree.
They all are.
Yeah, they all are.
So that's the first of Ad's questions, and the second, I am not joking, is the hardest question I've ever been asked in my entire life. This was rough. Like James, I got the email from Ads, and Saturday afternoon, I'm just weekends I disappear offline. I'm just not on. You would think that I would have time to catch up on stuff on the internet. It's the inverse for me. I'm just not around. And so you messaged me and said, "Have you heard Ads questions yet?" No, it's sitting in my inbox. I haven't checked it out yet. Toughest question ever. So of course that was the cue. So I turned off the radio in my car, listened to the question on my phone, and wouldn't you know it, God damn it, my guts just started doing backflips, man. I have never been asked something so difficult. So, I don't even want to answer this first. Corey, you're going to answer this one first. So, would you rather play for the Habs and have a great career and get a Stanley Cup out of it, or would you rather be cast as Anakin in the prequels, not knowing how that plays out?
Well, Ads expects me to loophole the shit out of this thing, and I intend to do so, because this is a really hard question. And again, I'm on the same page as Kyle here. I saw you guys going back and forth. I saw James say, "Oh my god, this question." Then Kyle being like, "Oh my god, my brain is melting." Like, I was like, okay, I got to check this thing out. And yeah, when I read it, I was like, ooh, wow, that is tough. Like, God.
Ads, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. So yeah, you got my my creative juices flowing here. So I really had to take it. I'm looking at it from two standpoints. Okay, like you said 19-year-old ourselves, right? That's when we're finding out. When I was 19 years old, it was the year 2000. In the year 2000. You remember?
What are you doing?
You don't remember that from Conan?
Do it more.
No, don't do it ever again.
Wow. I just think you're a wiener for not knowing that, Kyle. But
just answer the question.
Anyway, it was the year 2000, man. Like, I was 19 years old. I would have a different response than now. So 19-year-old me would, I'd be selfish. I'd be thinking about myself, and I would figure that the Habs can, my hockey team can kind of figure it out on their own and be able to win a cup. And I figure at this point, because I have no idea how the prequels are really going to turn out at this point. We know we had the Phantom Menace, and I'm kind of oblivious as to what's going on, right? Like, I don't know how the Habs are going to fare for the next 20 or close to 20 years. And I don't know how the prequels are going to turn out.
Spoiler alert, not well.
Yeah. So, I think I'm going to opt to play Vader. Like, I'm just going to be selfish and say, like, to myself, like, oh my God, this is something you just can't pass up. And, but now, again, I'm 36. I'm looking at that in hindsight. My team still hasn't won a cup. It's been a really, really, really long time. So you said that we're going to win a cup, and I'm just going to take it a bit further and say that, during my tenure, we've kind of become a dynasty. We've won several cups, and I'm basically a household name at this point. So I'm 36. I'm at the twilight of my career. I'm thinking of retiring. I'm probably gonna retire around 40. You know, probably have be in the top 10 scorers of all time.
Whoa.
Pipe down, rub-a-dub. All right. So
Mo Sislak's here, everybody.
look, I would be a household name, right? Like the city would love me. I'd be a franchise player. I'm never leaving Montreal. I'm playing my whole career in Montreal. It's gonna be like a 20-year career.
Oh God, you're gonna get signed into the latest trilogy because you're so famous.
Yeah.
Boo.
No, I'm pulling every string. Everyone that I know. I'm going further than this, James. I pull a meeting with Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm. And
What?
Yeah.
Wait, you just think she takes
Wayne
calls
Gretzky
like
doesn't
that
even
from
have that
hockey
kind of
players?
power.
I like I said, it's a 20-year career, an illustrious career. I'm a household name at this point, and it's been my life's goal. Okay, like I am pulling every string, calling in every favor, and Kathleen meets with me, and she basically she falls head over heels. Like they just throw all kinds at me, and like I'm either gonna be I have the pick of the litter here, kind of, and what I'm gonna choose to do is I'm gonna choose to be in a film, but I'm also gonna choose to she basically she offers us to open a division of Lucasfilm out here in Montreal, and I'm gonna put write together contracts, and I'm gonna scoop up
Note
all
to
the
self, episode 74 titled Delusions of Grandeur.
I knew someone was gonna say that.
Moly.
We're scooping up all the talent from the Commonwealth. Everyone's gonna come work at Lucasfilm, and we're all gonna be one big happy family, all because of the Habs and Star Wars. Thank you, ads. Loophole.
How did you ever get married? Like, why can't you just commit to, like, answering a question? It's an honest question, and you can't answer it.
Oh, God. I felt good.
'Cause that wasn't an answer.
Yeah, it was. I chose the Habs.
It was long. It was a lot of words. It's you know what that was? That was like the compositions that I get handed in that aren't really composition, but they're a lot of words.
It's basically 19-year-old me, which is Ad's real question because he said to look at it from that standpoint. 19-year-old me chooses Vader. 36-year-old me would most likely choose the Habs, just because I'm just, I'm like 5'9", 5'10". I'm just not the stature. Like I could look at it realistically from now, but yeah, and knowing how it all went and how things went for Hayden and whatnot. Like I know, granted, there's like this renaissance with the prequels right now, and there's plenty of Hayden love.
Yeah, it's hard to take that aspect out of it because we know what it all meant for Hayden.
Yeah, the fallout,
and that it hasn't always been puppy dogs and rainbows for him. So it's hard to unknow that when you answer this question. But James, how are you going to follow that one up?
I was tempted to just refuse to answer the question,
Just
and
tap
get
out?
ads. Just get ads to like firm up the rules and refuse to answer questions until Corey commits to answering properly.
No,
But
he encouraged the loophole.
He's so
I think he's just
entertaining
resigned to the loophole.
to watch him talk himself into this tizzy that I have to allow it. I would definitely, and I struggled just because, and it's funny for you guys, you were like just saying you couldn't take what happened to Hayden out of it, but for me, like it's a whole new world once someone else plays it. Like I would just unfactor what happened to Hayden because someone else could be hated more or completely loved,
Well, it all depends on the director too. Again, right? Like, no.
I think we're getting the same director.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Stop
you're working with
stop
George
changing
Lucas.
everything.
That's it. So like, you'd be like, yeah, James, I didn't like what you did there too much. Let's keep it a little more simple.
No, but you see, Corey, I'm so charismatic that of all the actors George Lucas has ever worked with, I would be the one that transformed his personality and brought him out of his shell.
You just loopholed my ass.
So yeah, no, I struggled, but in the end, I have to take the Stanley Cup. Like that was the clincher. If he said like illustrious career, no guaranteed cup, movie role, no guaranteed fame, no guaranteed success.
But what if you look at it from 19-year-old self you, like, like that's what I was kind of saying. Like at 19 years old, I was going to say, oh, for sure in 20, 25 years, the Habs will win another cup.
That didn't factor in for me. You're more of a team player than I am. It didn't factor in for me the idea that like I got to guarantee the franchise a cup. like it. The idea that they haven't had one, and then by choosing his option, I would give them one. That never even factored in for me.
Really, yeah, that was the big thing for me, is that Ad said that you play for that, you're paying for the Habs, and you're gonna win a cup, at least one. But we know in my case we won like 5 back to back. But
Sure you did. Sure you did. Yeah. Well,
Habs.
I know how I would have looked at it. I've always been pretty pragmatic. So I know that given this sort of career that Ad's described for us, a great career, Stanley Cup winner, I'm making money hand over fist. I'm going to make many-fold more as a hockey player than I would have made as Anakin Skywalker in 2 movies. There's no question. I would be surprised if Hayden Christensen made $1 million combined for both.
What? Really?
Dude, what did look up what Daisy Ridley and John Boyega got for TFA?
Like $350,000.
Yep.
I guess, I mean, it opens the door for other things when you look at it like that, but God. Wow, that almost, I mean, again, granted, both of them were really not, they're up-and-comers, right? They haven't really left their mark on the industry as of yet.
And that's kind of what it's based on. It's not because they just don't want to pay you. It's, well, you're an unknown. You have no track record. You're unionized. This is your slot. This is what we pay you.
But I think since then, like Hayden, there must have been, there's like fallout. They have contracts and stuff, like, again, like residuals from not only reruns, but I'm sure sales of the movies as well. They must get some kind of portion of that, I would think.
Oh, I'm sure he still gets kickbacks. But nowhere close to the, like, you could, as a hockey player, you could have signed at that time contracts of indeterminate length and whatever term and money the team wanted to give you. If you were that important to the team and franchise, having the career that Ads gave you, dude, you were making $8-9 million a year for a long time.
He also didn't tell you how many concussions that you received, and by the time you're 50, you're not going to be able to walk anymore either.
No, that's true. That comes with it. But you are going to have a comfy, cozy living. You could have homes in 3 different countries if you want. But again, so on the one side, the money is weighed heavily as a pro athlete. But your fame, if you're looking for fame, once you leave Montreal and certainly leave Canada, you're back to being a nobody.
Which could be cool.
People don't care. Which could be
cool. That
might
be nice. Yeah.
Yep. You can have your anonymity.
But again, in my case, again, I was a household name, and actually, I forgot to tell you that they would build a statue in my honor.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah, it's written here.
I hope I get ring. That makes me want to come back as a pigeon, Corey.
That's good. After I won you 5 Stanley Cups, you ingrate.
Oh, compose yourself. Compose yourself. See, I put myself in the mind frame that I take the hockey career that Ads gave me, but I'm going to take the trajectory that Hayden had. Because that's all that exists. That's all I can go on. I could do a pie in the sky where all Star Wars fans love me and the movies turned out, quote unquote, better than they did. But I can't chart that out. I don't know what that looks like. I know what Hayden's experience looks like. So I mapped myself into that. And it's not fun. So you can probably start to see where I'm leaning. I'm definitely leaning to hockey player. But you know what? Also, as a huge Star Wars fanatic, I'm kind of okay to be on this side of the fence as a fan. Like I don't necessarily want to see how the sausage gets made. I want the movie magic to be. I'm fine with that. I think. As I say that as on top of my $50 million pile of cash.
And again, I think you just nailed it there as well, Kyle. It's hard for all 3 of us at this point to be non-biased because, again, the Habs haven't won a cup, and Hayden's career hasn't always been, like you said, sunshine and rainbows.
I think he said puppy dogs and rainbows.
Yeah, pay attention.
Sorry, guys.
How many beers you in?
2.5.
No, maybe you need to start pounding it back a little further.
Yeah, let's go. Come on. I gotta say basically and literally a little more, or you guys do, or something.
You're almost due for a Disney infraction.
Yeah, that should be included. If I say basically, literally, or Disney, I got to drink.
And add $2?
Yes. It's a double whammy.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, you guys all heard it. Every time Corey says basically or literally, it's $2.
Really?
We are
No,
going to
I don't want to
Sandals.
say. No, I was just saying Disney. Disney $2, basically, literally, and Disney drink.
Oh, man. This is going to get rough. Okay. Can we invert the question? Is there a way to invert this at all?
How do you mean?
Yeah, there is.
Like, there's got to be a trade-off somewhere that you would prompt you to flip. So let's chip away at the hockey player. No Stanley Cup. Yeah, just take away the Stanley Cup. Are you still choosing the comfortable living as a hockey player?
Still a star?
I don't know. It's not all that comfortable, eh? It's a lot of time away from the family, a lot of traveling, a lot of. I mean, your body takes an absolute beating.
A lot of first-class hotels, a lot of private charter jets.
Do you think that's
rough?
But dude, by the end of it all, do you think that's actually it's work to you, man? Like when you're done a game, you just want to go to bed. Like when you're traveling around, okay, granted you're in first class and it's nice, but I'm pretty sure you'd rather not be on a plane at that point.
Yeah, no doubt. Everything at some point becomes routine, and you just want to get the hell off that jet and get to your hotel, get to your bed. I get that. I mean, okay, so James, how do we invert this question?
If you take away the Stanley Cup and take away the big contracts, so say like, you get a contract but with no guarantees, and you got to prove yourself, versus you get a role, no guarantees of how it turns out. I think then I may lean more towards the Star Wars role, just because for what Corey said, hockey's tough, man, and like a puck or a stick in the teeth for for moderate money and moderate fame. I don't know. I could probably get used to the idea of being a movie star.
Yeah, you get a handful of concussions too. You're not. I don't think you'll ever be the same, really.
Yeah, you don't know how your brain's going to react to that. Anyway, that's why this is such a tough question. There's so many different factors, and I walked up and down the aisles at the grocery store for a good 15 minutes aimlessly thinking about this question because I needed the solitude.
It's tough, but he loaded it up right. He put exactly the right weight in the right places. If he would have made it even tougher if he would have said, or you could be cast as, the next star in the Star Wars, in the next trilogy.
Well, I think
because we don't know what that is.
In a way, that's what he asked, because he said you don't. He said like you got to look at it from the perspective as you don't know how it pans out, and that's where our bias comes in, right? But
yeah, I tried to do that. I think I was pretty good at pretending like my Anakin role could have been successful, but I still choose Habs.
Okay, so let's take a different tack at it now. We'll play it as the people we are now. So we're not going to, the carrot at the end of the stick is not being a pro athlete anymore. But you can have, on one side, you get to be in a starring role in episode 9. The prime roles are filled, but you'll get a Lando-sized role in episode 9. Or you can have a gig as, Rockstar? We'll take out the concussions and the pain and suffering, the physical toll it takes. So that's it. Rockstar, or the Lando-sized role in one movie.
That's still a toughie. 'Cause again, with the rocker, you kind of got a lot of. It's hard to make money in the music industry these days. Supposedly, you got to do a lot of touring to make any dough these days with the internet. Touring could be fun, granted, but
and you have a good career, career in music. really solid.
Yeah, I don't know. That's tough. I think I would go Star Wars at that point, just because.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not saying rock star or movie star. You're saying rock star or Star Wars star. You know, like if you made the choice, member of U2 or Star Wars star, then it becomes tough again. But like, Star Wars is one of our favorite things. I think it's easy to lean towards that when the other side is like random rock star.
Yeah, no, I'm leaning the same way because in this case I go Star Wars simply because I could take whatever it is, say 6 weeks or 7 weeks of work and have a really nice role and be part of Star Wars fandom forever. And the rest of my life, I can probably make some kind of living off that role, whether it's residuals or going to cons and charging a stupid amount of money for my autograph.
Yeah, that's.
I think it's a good trade.
That's the exact same way I was looking at it, but yeah, like if I was a rock star, I would basically be like the Wild Stallions, and we'd basically bring world peace. So I kind of have an obligation there.
Drink.
Yeah, Wild Stallions.
All right, ads. That was magnificent. I need a cigarette, even though I'm not a smoker. But that was tough, man. Even now, I'm not completely sure that I answered the right way. But that was no joke the toughest question I've ever been asked. All right, guys, we got another question from Katie. Katie, who we love.
KTSO?
Yes, sir. Or Katie with triple E120 on Twitter. Everybody should be following Katie at this point. You guys have the show notes with you? Because I'm not reading all these questions tonight. I'm gonna need to like phone in a friend here.
I got the show notes.
All right, so keep it handy. I'll read Katie's question and then we'll spread the rest around.
Yep.
Okay, so Katie, going for a simple one this week. What is your favorite Star Wars soundtrack? The music in Star Wars, I feel, is a character in itself and is very vital to the story. My favorite is Rogue One. Your Father Would Be Proud is probably one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars music. So beautiful. Michael Giacchino had big shoes to fill with Rogue One, being the first Star Wars movie not to have John Williams behind the music. He knocked it out of the park, and that's great because when John Williams is unable to create any more music for Star Wars, he knows it will be in good hands. Would definitely have Giacchino back in the future. Great show, guys. Love you all, my Star Wars buddies. Katie, we love you too. Thank you for the question. So Corey, your favorite Star Wars soundtrack?
Well, I think you're the best person really to answer this question. Kyle's kind of like the audiophile of the group. James is we're all pretty big into music, and pretty much for the past like 3 months, all day long, I've been listening to Star Wars at work. So, still a really hard question because I really haven't given Rogue One enough love as I should have yet. Kyle's very big on it as well. You seem to have loved it, so I'm not really in a great position to judge at all because I haven't given it enough listens, I would think. But I know that I love the Empire soundtrack, Empire Strikes Back soundtrack. That's been my favorite all along. Yoda's theme, the asteroid field, Battle in the Snow, like it's just that whole soundtrack has like a mysticism and a sense of like magic to it, kind of, that draws me in. It's different. It's darker. I don't know. It's my favorite film as well. I know it kind of seems a bit like low-hanging fruit, but don't get me wrong. I love the better part of the songs throughout all the saga. But if I had to choose one movie, it's got to go Empire. It's got to be Empire.
James?
Yeah, I hate to agree with Corey. But no, Empire for me too. Really, the only two songs that are the only two pieces of music that aren't from the original trilogy that I sort of are standouts for me are Duel of the Fates and Battle of the Heroes from 1 and 3. But beyond that, like all of what I I'm hear in my head when I think classic Star Wars music is all from the OT. And you touched on most of it. Yoda's theme. The Imperial March, Leia's theme, that's Star Wars music to me. So It's definitely OT stuff, and yeah, my favorite of the OT stuff is Empire, like Corey.
Yeah, I mean, I'll complete the sweep. My favorite is Empire with a bullet. So I have my my Star Wars soundtracks kind of broken into tiers. So sitting on its own is Empire. It's untouchable. I don't know that anything will ever get close, and for the reasons that you guys described really well. It's just too much good stuff. He took what he did in A New Hope and just expanded it so well. He built upon the best parts of A New Hope, and then added Yoda's theme and the asteroid field and Battle of Hoth, the escape from Bespin. So much amazing stuff. Then I have a second tier, which it comprises of A New Hope, the Phantom Menace soundtrack, and Rogue One. And for various reasons, for me they all have really good stuff on it. And specific to Katie's question, she mentioned your father would be proud. Man, oh man, the more I hear that song, and it's already near the top of my Star Wars list. It is amazing. It is so damn good. But that's that soundtrack for me as a whole sits somewhere in the middle. A New Hope I have kind of slotted in at number 2, but it's not a super firm grasp. And I know that all things Star Wars come from A New Hope, and it's almost sacrilege to not have it at the top. But it's got a tenuous hold on number 2. Like the Phantom Menace soundtrack is also sensational, really, really good. The Force Awakens is sort of in that middle group as well. I like a lot of it, but a lot of it is also quite forgettable for me. And then the third tier is Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi, and Attack of the Clones. Those are my bottom 3. And they're standouts on each. But as a whole, yeah, they don't really rise to the levels of the others for me.
I think that's fair.
And it's a fluid list. I mean, if you ask me to write this list out again a month from now, it'll change, but Empire will still be at the top of it. But I am expecting big things from the Last Jedi score. And John Williams, he's had a long time to work on this, and pretty interesting. The process of this soundtrack is a bit different, actually a lot different. So what they're doing this time around is John Williams is writing the entire score, and then Rian Johnson is cutting the movie to the music. As opposed to before they would edit the movie, make a rough edit of the movie, give that to John Williams, and then he'd write music to that. So I don't know how that translates to screen.
That's interesting. I didn't hear anything about that. That's actually very interesting. Well, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Like, well, because they had a rough cut of the film, right? And that's what John Williams is working off the score.
Well, I suppose some of it, but like he's written, like, remember, he's been writing this since what, October? He's been like scoring the soundtrack to this movie since last fall. And I don't know when they started post-production. I want to say they started post in the new year. So he's got a big head start on Rian Johnson. This is the way Rian Johnson wanted to do it. So, hey, whatever he wants, he gets. And again, further down the line, I have no idea what to expect from the Han Solo movie. And maybe that's the place where Michael Giacchino comes back. Maybe he's the standalone guy. I would have him back in a heartbeat, and I would give him more than 4 weeks to pump something out next time.
Well, that's the thing. I think, like what he did or not like what he did, he gets an asterisk just because I don't think it's a fair shake.
Yeah, he pumped this out in record time.
And again, similar to the question I asked about Rian Johnson, this was like a dream gig for Giacchino. He said as much in multiple different interviews. So do you think that he's had Star Wars music written? Like, this is my music if I had to do a ground battle. This is my music. You think that already existed and he just pulled it out the notes? All right, guys, let's hit it.
Not complete and like ready to score, but I'm sure he had some strong ideas as to exactly what you just said. This is space battle melody, theme, timing. I'm sure.
Like, yeah, for him to do something like that in a month, he had to have had a mental like head start somewhere, right?
And being a fan of the movies, if there was any truth to him saying, and I believe there was, that's his, his Everest, that's his dream job, then for sure he's been playing that stuff through his head as a fan. He may have even tracked some of it. Some of that stuff may have been further along than I'm even sort of postulating here, because who knows? Maybe he had a whole bunch of it already worked out.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I bet he had like a little notebook somewhere of tracks that he'd already written out. I don't know if he'd ever admit to that. You would think that maybe he would have already, but...
You think maybe he got the gig last minute because he was like, hey, listen to this. I got this, and this that we could use because I wrote it. And it's maybe.
Hey, guys, I hear you're in a pickle. I've got you covered. Literally, I'm here, and I've got music written, ready to go. And they said, done. We don't have time to screw around.
He's like, I got all this leftover Jurassic Park material.
I'm sure that's not what he said, even if it was true.
Well, Giacchino didn't do Jurassic Park. That was John Williams.
The latest one?
Jurassic World?
Yeah.
Was that Giacchino?
I'm not sure. For some reason, it just kind of popped off there.
I don't know. You need to check your facts, sir.
Yep.
All right, Katie, I hope that answered your question. Big things. Corey, you expecting big things from The Last Jedi?
Indeed.
Yeah, I'm expecting a big rebound from The Force Awakens. Like, again, some beautiful stuff there. Jedi Steps, Rey's theme. But yeah, I'm hoping for something more consistent all the way through.
And if it's, from what we've heard, they've said it, they've drawn back. The whole darker kind of weird vibe of the movie could lend itself very well to John Williams' style.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Katie, thank you. Thank you once again. And
thank you, Katie.
Yeah, thanks, Katie.
Again, follow Katie. Katie with 3 E's, 120 on Twitter.
She's become a real, week after week solid listener. Thanks a lot, Katie. We look forward to your questions.
And up next, it's Mark at Talk Star Wars. Which of you guys wants to read this one?
I got it. My browser's open. So from Mark at TSW, another member of the Star Wars Commonwealth.
Do we need to tell people where to find Mark? Like, is it that obvious, or
do it? Just do it.
Direction.
Just do it.
You can follow Mark at Talk Star Wars on Twitter.
Content.
It's important. That's the important stuff. I told you, 75 episodes. We're pros now. All right, here's the question. Hey, gents. Hope you are all well. Love the latest episode. You guys are doing the Lord's work. Well, thank you, Mark. We're trying to keep up with you guys over there.
The bar is high.
He did set the bar high. I told my dad I wanted to be a professional limboer when I grew up, but he told me I was setting the bar too low. So I took up high jump.
Oh, God.
I wanted to ask you, chaps, about the events in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Do you think Shmi Skywalker was taken by the Tusken Raiders to elicit a reaction from Anakin? I'm thinking about Aurra Singh's connection to Maul in the comic book, and her appearance in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, watching Anakin during the pod race. Could Palpatino have used her to coordinate the taking of Shmi in order to push Anakin to the dark side? Just a random thought for you to kick around. Long live the Star Wars Commonwealth. P.S. It was amusing to hear Kyle try to remember that I called Obi-Wan Kenobi Pantaloon Inferno because he is such an unreliable narrator.
I couldn't agree with you more, Mark.
Signed by Mark. So what do we think, boys?
Corey, you want this one first?
I'll take a little stab at it. I think, first of all, it's a very good point. I've kind of thought about it in a similar vein before, but him having said Aurra Singh kind of does put a whole new spin on it. Not a whole new spin, but it adds gravity to the point, basically. And I think it's a very good one, Mark.
Drink.
Oh, nice. Give me a sec. Anyway, I think it's a very good point, Mark. It'd be perfect. It would be perfect. And the sad part about it is I feel like they've kind of almost missed their opportunity to flush it out. In the movie, would have been very easy for them to flush that out. You know, like Palpatine is a very powerful character. The Shroud of Darkness is everywhere, it seems, with him. His hand is a little bit everywhere. So it kind of would make sense, you know, but at this point it almost seems like they'd have to touch upon it in literature moving forward to draw that out. But the story of Shmi, there's so much there that we don't know about. She's a super important person, like almost possibly even like the catalyst to this saga. I think it's very possible that Palpatine kind of manipulated that situation, you know, and was the catalyst behind it. It makes perfect sense to me. Like, yeah, like they should have again flushed it out and made that connection. It's pretty obvious that Anakin and Palpatine have a rapport. They have quite a connection in the part 2 and 3 anyhow. And even in part 1, he says, you know, we're going to be watching your career very closely and whatever. But Anakin even confides in him and asks him for advice. And Palpatine is kind of like manipulating him at the same time. But at least you see that he's kind of confiding in him. So it would have made sense to say, like, hey, look, you know, I'm having these crazy dreams about my mom and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, he could be orchestrating the whole thing. And it could have just added this whole another layer to the onion that's kind of missed out upon at this point. But it's really well brought up in this question.
And James, you want to follow up on that one?
Thanks, Kyle. I don't have a lot to add to what Corey said because he left no words in the English language.
You used them all.
You used them all. There's no words left. I never really considered it until asked. It fits, like it makes sense, and you could definitely retrofit it in there. And it doesn't just fit from like what we see on screen. From a storytelling perspective, like it's so devious and you know, underhanded and manipulative and conniving that it would make sense to be part of Palpatine's ultimate plan. But yeah, I don't think it was ever the original intent. And like Corey said, I don't think we'll ever get to see it fleshed out on screen because, well, I don't know how or when they would do that. But probably you guys, the fans who read the extra stuff, will get it at some point, I would imagine, in comic book print or on page.
But I think the prime opportunity was to have taken advantage of that opportunity on screen at that time, and it kind of flew over their heads in a way. They could have touched upon it again.
There's already so much going on in the prequels. I don't know if they could have squeezed in something else. It's also good to leave some things ambiguous.
Yeah, I guess they could have touched upon it in the Clone Wars as well. At least, you know, a little, just one reference to it would have led to a lot more speculation.
Like, I don't know if it's official legit canon, but I always assumed that, you know, once you know, at the opera, when Palpatine tells Anakin that, you know, he learned the power to create life, that was the moment for me where that was Palpatine admitting that he's the one that conceived of Anakin. I don't know how, some sort of conjuring in the Force that, boop, Anakin has been planted in some woman's womb somewhere in the galaxy.
Well, that story definitely needs to come to the fore at one point because it's a super interesting one.
Absolutely, absolutely it is. I'm sure it will one day.
And it's definitely alluded to, like you said, in Revenge of the Sith, that you know, Palpatine is a perpetrator in the creation of Anakin.
You know, if it's not confirmed, maybe it's just because they want to avoid the direct 100% absolute definitive Palpatine is Anakin's father, ergo he's Luke's grandfather thing. If you just leave it somewhat ambiguous, maybe you can't have that conversation quite. But yeah, I always assumed that Palpatine made Anakin happen. And I believe he orchestrated, puppet mastered Anakin's entire life. I think I asked the guys at TSW once upon a time as well. Anakin in The Phantom Menace, he tells Padme that he's been on Tatooine since he was very little, 3, he thinks. And that also is something that's gone under everybody's radar. So I looked it up today as I was just kind of poking around trying to get some answers for this question. And in the Star Wars Wikipedia thing, it does say that Anakin moved to Tatooine. So he wasn't born on Tatooine. He was somewhere else. And somehow got shifted over to Tatooine.
And that's canon, right?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty damn sure. So, why? How did he get over to Tatooine? I'm sure Palpatine made all this stuff happen.
Get him into the slave trade. Get him into the slave trade. Get
him into a life where
he's off the radar.
He's got nothing. Not only off the radar and out of the view of the Jedi, or maybe where he would be a beacon to the Jedi at some point. But have him be raised with only his mom. Let him develop that forbidden attachment, and then let the Jedi get him. And he would grow up to be a train wreck, which he eventually did. As far as Aurra Singh's connection, I suppose it's possible. Like, I haven't read the Darth Maul comic yet, so I don't know what Mark was alluding to as far as Aurra Singh and the relationship with Darth Maul. So I can't speak to that.
Well, I think what he's saying is that her presence, like, she's at the pod race in the Phantom Menace, right?
Yeah, so could she be overseeing?
Exactly. Like, just kind of like third or fourth man down the line, like from Palpatine to Dooku to whoever to Aurra Singh, kind of.
Yeah, so I mean, you're right, but from my limited knowledge in this case, like I don't think there's anything to suggest that Singh and Palpatine have any relationship, but it could be like a 6 degrees of separation type thing. But I guess they could reveal that later.
And you would think he would have taken better advantage of her too, knowing if that's the case, knowing that she's Force sensitive anyhow.
Maybe, and wasn't Aurra Singh a failed Jedi?
I'm not sure. I just got the toy. I should go grab it and read the back of it.
I'm pretty sure she well, not a fallen Jedi, but like a trainee who just
couldn't hack
washed
it.
out of the. Yeah, she just couldn't hack it. I wonder if that's canon. I'm going to check it out. Female near-human bounty hunter who operated prior to... Get out of here, 50 Shades Darker. Brutal pop-up. Biography. Expert sniper, 10 years before, blah, blah, blah. I don't see anything here that portrays her as a fallen Jedi or Jedi trainee. So I think that maybe was a Legends characterization.
But she's definitely Force sensitive anyhow.
Is she?
Yeah, it says that on the back of my toy for sure. I remember that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, I never banked on any type of connection between her and Palpatine, but I'm certainly open to it. Another suggestion I think works just as well is Palpatine delegating down to Dooku, and then Dooku to Jabba, because those two already have a relationship in the Clone Wars movies, and then from Jabba to a thug, and then to the Tusken Raiders, promising, yeah, you do this for us, and we'll let you have your territory, or we won't kill you, or promising Sand People whatever it is that they want. I think that's one way for Palpatine to get the order to the Sand People to go kidnap Shmi Skywalker. Otherwise, like, why would they do that? Of all the people, why take that kid's mom and torture her for no reason? So I absolutely believe that Palpatine had everything to do with that.
That does makes a lot of sense.
And I like the Palpatine, Dooku, Jabba, Thug, Tusken Raider line. It just, to me, it makes more sense, and it follows connections that have already been made. But that's the way I see that. Anything else anybody wants to add?
No, I think you guys spoke to it better than I possibly could. And Mark's always digging up good stuff. So thanks for that amazing question, Mark.
That was a good one.
I'm just grateful that Mark was able to work in a question amidst all of the crazy amount of content that he's constantly pumping out.
You know what he probably had to do is he probably had to narrow his question for us off a list of 10 questions he'd written down for us, because that's just the amount of work Mark does.
That's probably true. But Mark, thank you for the compliments. Thank you for the nice word, for the nice question. My hat's off to you, sir. You tell us that we're doing the Lord's work. Well, it's right back at you, big boy. You guys are the reason I get out of bed in the morning.
Especially tomorrow morning, I get to listen to the latest episode.
Yeah, I mean that really is part of the week I will look forward to now. Is where's the new Talk Star Wars? Where's the new Gen X?
That's my Monday morning
Nerd Room. Where's the new Skyhoppers? But yeah, like Talk Star Wars kicks it off. Like every Monday, boom, I got it. And usually I don't get to it till later in the day, just because that's when I'm often editing our show. But I'm always champing at the bit. I want to get their show in my ear, and also Mark's Kessel runs. They're a perfect way to start off the morning. Love them.
Yeah, and James, I think you should join us in the VIP room as well. I just I took my first steps there not too long ago, and it's fun.
Would you call it a larger world?
Something like that. It's definitely fun. I'll say that. Like, I'm not a big Facebook guy, but this is, I'll open up Facebook. Oh, look at all these notifications. Wow. Like, and then, yeah, you got to get involved, man.
Yeah, that sounds like good advice, buddy.
It's a very active group. I'll say that much, and a great group.
Yeah.
A shout out to, shout out to Robert in the group who gifted Jonas the gift card to Puzzle Zoo. That just
very cool.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I can't wait to hear what he gets.
But anyway, again, Mark, thank you, sir. Hope you're doing well. Can't wait to hear your latest, and we'll be in touch, my friend. And from there, we move to Nathan Roberts, and you can follow Nathan at LuminousRW, and you can check out his podcast, which is now off the ground, and definitely worth some checking out. So, Corey, you want to read this one?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, so here's from Robert. He says, he says, last week you guys talked about the possibility of an Indiana Jones reboot or recast. If they go that route, do you think they'll do it in period or a modern adaptation? Which do you prefer? Personally, I don't know how you do this type of movie with the modern technology. Also, it just can't possibly be as good without Nazis to punch. I love punching Nazis. I couldn't agree with you more there, Nathan.
Hard to disagree with that.
Where do you guys get fighting all the time to punch Nazis?
What do you do on Tuesday morning?
Seriously.
Huh. Well, include me in these things. I'd like to go punch a few Nazis.
They're getting harder and harder to come by.
They're all like 95-year-old men. Hey, that's fair, man.
All right, so Kyle, why don't you take a stab at this one, man?
Okay. So we're gonna reboot Indiana Jones. Do we want to do the same thing again? Do we want just to take another guy, get him to grow some stubble, and then throw him into the 1930s and 40s to dig up the same old artifacts and punch Nazis? I don't know. That seems like it's been done, right? Then again, if you bring him into our time, have him tracking down different treasures and punching other people, well, I think they call that Uncharted, which is being turned into a movie franchise. What do you do?
I think the first thing I'm going to do is proclaim that you're a Nazi and punch you in the face. Because, yeah, there's no question asked. How can you even contemplate, it's been said and done. There's no question to be asked here. It has to be done, period, the way it was back in the 30s. It's all about the pulp and the those 1930 serial matinees, with these based on these action heroes from back in the day. In my opinion, a modern day reboot, like recasting Indiana Jones modern day, like 21st century Indiana Jones, LFL can possibly have a riot on their hands. Or who knows, maybe Disney would take the backlash.
Oh,
no. We're talking about Indiana Jones, not Star Wars. Ooh.
Yeah. MGM.
I threw that
then.
in there just because of that. I got all that written. I put Disney there.
All right. Well, Corey, let me take the baton from you for a second here, and say that I think you in episode 1 of the next Indiana Jones trilogy, the reboot trilogy, Indiana Jones is taking place in the modern era, maybe slightly in the future, and the first artifact he finds sends him back in time, so that episode 2 takes place in the classic Nazi punching era.
Holy cow! Talk about loopholes.
See what I did there?
Yeah, but it definitely needs to take place in that era. That era is just perfect. It's conducive to Indiana Jones. There is no other Indiana Jones. Like the modern day, it's kind of hard to think about. Like,
it's hard to recreate the scenes like where he's like on the track in the minecart in the modern era. Like,
well, not only that, it's just saying it's like there's so much in our day and age that we pretty much figure like. For the most part, there's not really much that's left unfound, more or less, kind of, like back in the...
There's no mystery left.
Yeah, like back in the day, there was... they had technology and whatnot, but they were just starting the exploration of the planet to, uncover these mysteries. So the time period's perfect. There's so many stories going on. Another thing within Indiana Jones as well is that I didn't go ahead and get the dates or whatever, but I remember I was shocked when I found this out. I was like in my teens. And, I guess I paid a little closer attention to the movies after having watched them like 20, 30, 40 times, whatever. And they're not chronological, they go back, forward, back, like that part's interesting to me. So Indy's been there, he's done that. And we got to stay in that era, like it just makes so much sense. It's based on
I think I have to agree. Yeah. I think a modern day Indiana Jones really is Robert Langdon stories.
I was just going to say the same thing, which kind of segues into like, I was trying to think that it led me a little in a different direction. What could this movie be about? It's going to be probably roughly 10 years after the last movie, which took place in 1957, based on Roswell. So that movie kind of pertained to the KGB, which could still be pertinent at that time. We got the space race in 1967, the assassination of JFK. They've taken a spiritual approach in both episodes 1 and 3. I don't know Atlantis, Bigfoot, he meets Chewie. I don't know.
Bigfoot.
See, when I'm thinking about indie reboot, yeah, my mind goes straight. Yeah, okay, fine. Just give him a leather jacket, a fedora, and a bullwhip, and away we go. But Nathan brought it up, and I think it's worth some thought. Like I don't know. You just go and say, okay, just take the jacket off Harrison and put it on the next guy. Like I don't know.
No, it has to be done well. But modern day adaptation, I want nothing to do with. Like it will not be Indiana Jones anymore.
I'm not so quick to say that. I don't know. Like,
yeah, I think Corey's the first in line to get tickets, no matter when they put it.
I'll watch it, and whatever. I'll have to judge it like that. But
Kyle, can you cut that right up against "I want nothing to do with it"? Oh, I'll watch it.
I'll always give something a chance, but I'll give it a chance. But I don't think I'll be on the. I won't be. My expectations won't be that high, or I don't know how to put it, but. I just can't see them.
I feel like right now, the way you're talking, the visual representation is a dog chasing his tail.
Either way, I think it's desecrating what is Indiana Jones in that sense.
Wow.
Yeah. What?
Desecrating. Jeez.
Taking Indiana Jones and bringing it into the modern day, to me, makes zero sense. Like
it's called Uncharted. Nathan Drake is Indiana Jones. It's the same guy, and he's just chasing treasures in modern day. And I'll tell you what, those games kick ass. And if somebody they are making those movies. If those movies come out and they turn out to kick ass too, and Indiana Jones 4 and 5 still stuck in the past, people go, People are going to say they should have modernized Indy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but either way, you're going to have the naysayers. If they modernize, there'll be people who say they shouldn't have, and if they don't, there'll be people who say they should have.
We don't know how they're going to take it can't be Indy at that point anymore. That's the thing. Like, they can take this episode 5 and kind of maybe do what they were going to do with Shia LaBeouf and transcend that character and, you know, pass the torch or the baton, if you will, on to the next generation so that the story can move forward. But you can't take and recreate Indiana Jones and say, okay, like, yeah, he was born in...
Sure you can.
Yeah, of course you can.
You can.
You can. James Bond him.
Exactly. I was just about to say James Bond.
James Bond?
Exactly.
But James Bond has done it since day one. It's always just gone with the times. There's been like...
But there's only been one Indiana, so this will be the first time they make the decision of how they're going to do it.
To me, personally, I thought of James Bond as well, and it's like apples and oranges to me.
I think
it's more like apples and other apples that are red.
You're being that guy again, the nostalgic guy who just wants things to always be the nostalgic way.
No, I just think Indiana Jones that's what that franchise is. Like, Bond lends itself to technology and whatnot. Like, Indiana Jones does not. And that's part of Nathan's question, Like, I don't see technology in this, you know? Like,
well, it doesn't have to be. He doesn't have to be using an iPad to solve his crimes or to chase down his treasures.
Well,
I think there's a way to do it. I think there's a.
Well, James said it well to me.
What I want.
The first character that came to mind to me was Robert Langdon, and this character that's coming to you is the Uncharted guy. So it's being done. It's a market or a niche that's already being exploited. Like, this is Indy's niche, and there's still a lot of story to tell in that time frame.
Is there? Because you just said what treasures are left.
Not in that. In the 1930s and 40s, there were plenty. In the 21st century, not so much. Let's punch some Nazis.
It's fiction. It's fiction.
I guess.
Yeah, they could find like the Fountain of Youth. That's still not found. There's some stuff they could still find. They could write in.
I'm surprised they never touched upon Atlantis. Space race, like, date wise, like, if they stick to the timeline, the last one was made in what? I think it was 2008. So the next one will be in 2020. That's like 12 years. Say on film, it's gonna maybe be 10 years. He's married at this point. He has a kid. Like, does that change the story? I like the way that Steve put it last week best, or actually Steve's boyfriend said that it could be him. Put Harrison in modern day situation, like the 21st century, and he's like 100 years old. And he's just recounting these tales, like Young Guns 2, where it's Billy the Kid telling this journalist, Billy the Kid, and the kid doesn't really believe him, but he just recounts this incredible tale of all his stories, you know? That would work for me in a modern day adaptation.
What if you split the difference and you set a rebooted Indiana Jones franchise, instead of the 30s and 40s, you set it in the 70s or 80s?
I don't know, I just think it'd be too, like, I see him in, like, battling Colombian drug lords and shit.
What?
The 80s, what do you want me to say? Like, that's what I see.
You're seeing Johnny Depp in Blow.
No, I see him kind of going through these jungles or whatever and being pit up against you know, like, he sees some kind of bad stuff going down, he's got to get involved.
No, I think James made a valid point that James Bond can occur in any era, and I think that
I disagree.
If done properly, Indiana Jones can too.
I fully disagree. Like I said, I think Bond just lends itself to technology and evolution and moving forward with that character. It makes sense. But anyway, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, whatever. I don't really care. But I would still go see it, but I wouldn't be super excited, and I'd be very skeptical.
But they're going to get your money anyway, and in the end, that's all they really care about.
Hey, they got my money for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, so.
Who did?
Well, I think we're talking about indie, so I can go ahead. Oh, actually, back then it was Lucasfilm, so.
Oh, maybe he's learning.
Well,
Maybe
back
the
then it
ride's
was.
over.
Back then it was Lucasfilm, but now we Disney indie's fair game. We never got got to the bottom of that one. You want to incorporate it? You want to say indie's Lucasfilm, and moving forward we say that we'll put $2 in the kitty.
All right.
I'm in. I proposed it a couple of weeks ago, and you were like, "Well, let's just hold
this-
off on that for now."
Well, I wanted to give you time to rethink whether or not you want to give away more money.
Well, I'm good.
Apparently you
I'm
do.
Good. Let's do it.
All right. Okay. So did we all answer? Did you guys see? Well, Corey, I think you've made your point clear. James, you want indies still in the 30s, 40s?
Yeah, I do. I think he does fit well into like a technology-less adventure for classic treasures. So yeah, I'd like to see him in the, I don't know, 40s, 50s. I don't even mind if they just completely reboot him and don't tell the story of the arc or anything, but like, make him 30 again. I don't care. Just recast him and away we go.
There's all kinds of stories they can tell with him.
I'd like to see. I don't think I want to see him in future or in our present time, or a future indie exploring our time. Oof. Exploring treasures of our era. That's creepy too. But I would not mind a recast young Indiana Jones in the 70s or 80s. I think that could be pretty cool too. So that is my preference. There you go. Nathan, thank you, sir. At Luminous
Thank you, Nathan.
RE on Twitter. And Nathan is a great follow. He's another one of those walking encyclopedia type Star Wars fans. You can ask him anything and he's going to have a really, really smart response for you. And we're going to end it all here. The legendary Carlos Candido. He's got a question for us this week. We'll end the show with this one. And Carlos says, "Hello, fine gentlemen. Normally I would send in a voicemail message because it's quicker, but I'm fighting a dreadful cold, and unlike Corey, I respect your listeners." The Oilers just made it 5-0 as I write this. And as I read this, I'm going to update everybody. Ooh, it's a final 7-1 Edmonton over Anaheim. Look at that.
Beauty.
This makes me happy considering they got hosed by the refs in the last game. I digress. And Carlos, I agree. That was absolutely brutal officiating.
Pitiful.
Yeah, really bad.
Embarrassing. On previous on previous shows, we've discussed the possibility of different standalone films that Lucasfilm, not Disney, could flush out. I have an idea for a standalone film. I would love to see an episode 1.5 of sorts. The 10 years between The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones are very awkward to me. This movie would give us a look into the demise of Sifo Dyas, the construction of the clone army, the struggle of Count Dooku with the Jedi Order, and his inevitable turn to the dark side. Do you agree? What part of this period would you like to see or have explained? Cheers, Carlos. Cheers to you, Carlos. I like this question, and who wants to run with it first?
James, you go for it, man.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'll run with the Dooku angle first. I think if there's one thing in that era that I'd like to have explained more, it's definitely Dooku's story. I think he's a really, really cool character. And I would watch a whole probably standalone movie. He's not at the top of my list of guys to get one. I want to see Qui-Gon's first, and Obi-Wan's before that. But Dooku is right up there amongst like really interesting characters with cool arcs. Who I think if they flush that out, I'm on board. I'll sit next to you, Carlo. We'll share popcorn.
That sounds sweet.
I know it's salty.
I'll skip ahead, James. I agree that yes, I would love to see more Dooku. Whether gathering the separatist forces, being the charming guy that he is, breaking away from the Jedi Order, dealing with the loss of Qui-Gon, all that stuff I think is ripe for storytelling. I don't know if it makes the most sense to have it on screen, because he would still need to be Christopher Lee. I can't see an old Count Dooku, not Christopher Lee. Like, talk about a recasting that just can't happen. But as for, do I want a movie in that period at all? There's lots of interesting stories to tell, I guess. You could talk about Palpatine's backroom dealings, his ascent to power. But also, there's no big battles to be fought. The Jedi are still oblivious to the clones, and they're aware of something going on the dark side, but it's still too early for them to really narrow down on it. Sifo Dyas was explained in the Clone Wars, the Lost Missions. So I see a lot of this material better told in something not on the big screen. Corey, what do you think?
I like what Carlos is saying as well, but I know I've said this a lot, and I'm like on the same page as you, Kyle. I've said this a lot lately that, it's just I don't see it happening on the big screen. It's a great idea. I just don't see it happening on the big screen. There's a lot of ideas that can be explored there. There's the Anakin Obi-Wan relationship. That'd be super cool to get fleshed out. They did it a bit in comics, but nothing too relevant. So it'd be nice to see that, because again, like Anakin was just thrust upon Obi-Wan, and you really don't get that sense of their connection in the Phantom Menace. He's more kind of Anakin kind of more leads toward Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon, just tells Obi-Wan, "You got to do this for me, man. Do me a solid, bro." But Dooku as well. Dooku's story is one that super intrigues me. He's Qui-Gon's master as well, and I think that has something to do with the ability that Qui-Gon's able to Force Ghost. Both of them, I think Dooku was fed up with the dogma that the Jedi were all into, and he was kind of thinking outside the box, which he obviously kind of passed on a bit to Qui-Gon. But
I'd like to see his struggle with because he convinced himself too that he was using the dark side to a better end, right?
Exactly.
So I'd like to see that fleshed out as well.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, that whole thing. He's thinking outside the box, and then he hits that slippery slope, and he transcends into or descends into darkness. But there's also another thing about that too. Again, we've spoken about it before. I don't know if it's been considered canon as of yet, but when he breaks away from the Jedi, there's a possible group of 20 or so Jedi who leave with him because they're, I'm not going to say they're dark side users, but they're not into the way that the Jedi, into what the Jedi have become, kind of.
It's the Lost 20, and they are canon, but they didn't leave the Jedi at the same time as a group.
Okay. All right, so also there's Sifo Dyas. This is really, really intriguing to me. When I watched Attack of the Clones in theater, I remember I'd seen the movie 5 times in theater, and I saw it with all kinds of different people. And then one thing that really stood out to me in that movie, that I really loved, I wanted to see the creation of the clone army and all that, so I was really looking forward to that. And then they start talking about this character. Well, first they start talking about how there's a planet missing. There's this missing planet. It's this big mystery. And then they kind of figure it out because of this child. And then, we start getting rumors of this Jedi named Sifo Dyas. And I'm like, whoa, what is going on here? And then we get those answers on Kamino. And we find out that there's this clone army just out of nowhere. This guy commissioned a clone army. So now I had several questions that I Googled, and obviously Kyle's saying it's explained now and it's canon, which I know I'd like to be a little more to it, because the question that brings is, was he kind of under the influence of Dooku, or was he just really just going out there and doing it in himself? Because to me it seems like Dooku, again, we've just talked about it, guy kind of had his hand a bit everywhere. Is it just the wills of the Force and he just kind of happens to swoop in at the right moment? I don't think so. I think he's kind of, the Shroud of Darkness kind of got a hold of Sifo Dyas in a way. Not that he's dark, but it manipulates him into kind of ordering this army. So it's either he's with Dooku and Palpatine, which I don't think is the case. I think he's just more being manipulated by the Sith. Then they take control. But the big question this raises to me is that, okay, it's the 11th hour. It's the twilight of the Jedi. They're in dire straits. And this clone army pops up out of nowhere. It's this complete mystery. And, they know that this Jedi or this clone army, excuse me, is associated with this exiled former Jedi, Sifo Dyas. So that should raise some questions. But really, first of all, Yoda says, we didn't even foresee the creation of this. Like we're really blind now. Like the Jedi have really lost their way, kind of. Like it's been 10 years that they've been commissioned to do this, and we saw nothing. So, like, I don't know, like all that just brings up like so many questions about like Sifo Dyas basically, and the Jedi itself. Like again, like,
drink, or maybe don't.
Well, the 11th hour. Just look, like, how did the Jedi not question that? Again, like they clearly admit that these clones are coming in out of nowhere. They didn't know about them, and they just don't question it. They're just like, yeah, we're gonna go with it. This exiled, mysterious Jedi that kind of went missing 10 years ago commissioned this clone army, and they're here to help us. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, let's send them into battle. No problem. Like, no, like, isn't that kind of like, shouldn't they have done a little further research, maybe found these chips that were supposedly implanted in them instead of just blindly accepting their help? Like, doesn't all this sound a little fishy when you put it all together, and they just kind of blindly accept, like, oh, well, we need them, and we need them now, let's just go with it.
I don't know, but you subliminally made me hungry there by mentioning fish and chips in that sentence.
Yeah, I got lost a few minutes ago, I'll be honest.
Really, eh? Wow, it was interesting to me. Like, that whole, basically in the movie, that whole Sifo Dyas thing really... Oh, Jesus. It really intrigued me, but they never really flushed it out all that much. And, I don't know, like, I just would have thought that the Jedi would question something of such magnitude, like this clone army is being bestowed upon them, again, in their moment of need, and they're just like, yeah, okay, this isn't weird, especially that it comes from this Jedi, again, that's like mysteriously disappeared. No, we'll just accept it, even though the Shroud of Darkness is out there. Like, we'll just go with it. Like, that always, I don't know, that just...
No, it's I think it's a fair question, but they needed it. We need to fight. We need this army to fight the Separatists. We'll deal with the questions later.
Yeah, 66 of them.
Ooh. Yeah, this whole 10-year period, to me it's like an incubator for what's to come. Obviously, that's kind of what it is. By the time we get to Attack of the Clones, the clones are mature enough to fight, and Palpatine has marshaled his forces. So I don't know what you could tell in between there that would make a compelling movie. I think there's plenty of material, like I said, that could be told in a book or a comic, but I don't know that there's something befitting of a big screen. So
I could see it on a Netflix TV show or something, like maybe just a couple of seasons. Again, you can kind of somewhat touch upon what you had said in the past, Kyle, where you want to see Palpatine's... He's already risen to power at that point, but you can kind of see him doing... like, making his master plan in the background of things, there's probably like 4 or 5 storylines you can go with in that series anyhow.
Well, yeah, the politics of the Star Wars galaxy is the fertile ground there for storytelling, I would think. The rest of it, I think, is still... I don't know what the right word is. Just I don't think there's a lot of meat on the bone for a story there just yet.
Not necessarily not a story, but like a movie. But I definitely want to see more on Dooku, or hear more about Dooku's descent to darkness for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely take more Dooku. We all done here?
I'm done, man.
I think so.
I think so too. Carlos, man, that was awesome. And everybody, follow Carlos, C Candido Music on Twitter, and gird your loins. Carlos has his Kickstarter campaign getting ready very soon. So be ready for that. Keep your eyes peeled, and follow the man. You listen to his music, you may as well follow the guy. And he can be found at C Candido Music on Twitter and on Facebook, and of course on YouTube and on his website. Just Google him. And that will bring episode 74 to a close. And I want to thank you guys so much for listening once again. And you guys, listeners to the show, really came through for us this week. The questions were stupendous all around, so I got to thank you, Ads, as always. Thank you, Katie, Mark, Nathan, and Carlos. Big, huge high fives to all of you, man. Thank you so much. And thank you guys, Corey, James. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Pleasure is mine. And so I'll take this opportunity to remind you to go check out StarWarsCommonwealth.com, where you'll hear from Talk Star Wars, Generation X-Wing, the Rogue Squadron, the Skyhoppers, and the Nerd Room. And guys, where can we find you between shows on the Twitter machine?
Chop rules with a Z.
I'm at Tommy Bombadil 1.
Awesome. And I'm at Tumbling Saber on the Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Come check it out. I'm glad to follow you back, and we can talk about Star Wars. Surprise, surprise. And if you want to head over to iTunes, leave us a quick review. We'll be eternally grateful. And that'll be it for episode 74. Thanks again for listening. We'll catch you again later this week.
Self-redeeming qualities, have they hindered me? Hindering, was I blind to see? Blind to see that you needed me, all of me. Well, you were there for me. I will be there too, watching, listening. Every moment wanting all of you, and I believe I can save you, just don't let me go. And I can see I'll be waiting, always waiting, just don't let me go. Just don't let me go. Time goes on and I'm questioning all the things I've seen, crazy things I've seen as I'm watching you. I'm watching you walking away from